Okay, so I'll start with our story. This is us, and I think you can tell by the hair and the shoulder pads and the big sleeves what decade we got married in. It was the 80s. Big hair, everything was big. Mike and I met in college in 1984, and we pretty much have been together since the very first day that we met. I walked into the college dorm, and Mike was the RA. He was already the boss, even when we were kids, running the dorm. Walked in, introduced myself, and he said, well, welcome to the dorm. Can I help you move your stuff in to your room? And I said, yeah, sure. And I thought he did that for everybody. I found out later he only did that for me. And we've been together. Only me. I thought he was, just as a great guy, but no, he kind of liked me right from the start. I really liked him from the start. We were married a year later from the day that we met. In 1985, and this is our story. We were college kids, we were poor, we weren't sure what we were going to do with our lives. So in order to finish college, Mike decided to go into the Air Force. So we got married, went into the United States Air Force, and the Air Force very politely asked us, what would you like to study? And Mike said, I would like to study computers, because that's what he was doing way back then when computers were hot and a new topic. And they put him in the fire department. And then they said, where would you like to live? And we said, or where would you like to be stationed? And we said, anywhere west of the Rockies, because we're from Seattle. And they put us in Louisiana. So that's the Air Force. I don't know why they bothered to ask you, because they're going to do what they're going to do with you. But this is Mike as a crash firefighter in the United States Air Force. That's him on the far bottom right. With his very red hair.
Pretty tough to spot and all that.
But it ended up being a perfect match for him. He didn't know it, but he was absolutely custom made, custom fit to be a firefighter. He really loved it. But in the Air Force, fortunately, his job as a crash firefighter was to put out the fires of crashed planes. Now I know there's a more technical term for it, but fortunately he never had a single plane crash the entire time we were in the Air Force, so he didn't have a whole lot of extreme experience, and so didn't notice a huge change in him at that time in our lives in the military. But we were in the military for about 4 years, and in Louisiana, loved the South, absolutely love it. And while we were there, we had these two precious little boys, our oldest Michael on the right, and our youngest Rick on the left. By the time we left the Air Force, this is the year we left the Air Force, and this is the year that Mike became a Seattle firefighter. We moved back up to the Northwest, where I'm from, and absolutely loved this job. But at that time, I kind of started to notice some changes in him that I hadn't really seen before. We'd already been married 5 years by now. This was 1990. And Mike, I noticed some changes, and we're going to go into that as we progress here. But Mike waited a long, long time to promote, because in Seattle, when you promote, I don't know if it's true in every fire department, but they can tag you for the 40-hour work week, which he dreaded because we have like the worst traffic in the nation. So all the firefighters in Seattle like to stay on shift so they don't have to commute every day. So he waited a long time to promote to become an officer. And he also wanted to be around to raise those little boys, because once you become an officer, you can be almost kind of a slave to the fire department. So he waited a long time, waited about almost till the boys were in high school to promote. He became a captain, and of course they did. They tagged him for the 40-hour work week, and he became the training captain at the training center in downtown Seattle. And because it's such a big department and spread over huge terrain, and he'd been in a long time, he'd kind of lost track with a lot of the firefighters that he first came in with. And at the training center now, almost 2 decades later, he was running into firefighters he hadn't seen in years. And day after day, they were coming up to him and reconnecting and then reporting this alarming news that they were getting a divorce. Over and over again, running into them, divorce after divorce after divorce, some even for the second and third time. And this just absolutely broke Mike's heart, because these are the best people in the world. He knew them way back when they were happily married, and something was happening to their marriages over the course of this career. And then every day, he was coming home to me and saying, gosh, I ran into so-and-so, he's divorced, and this guy's divorced, and that gal's divorced. And he said, and some of them were actually coming to him for advice, because he knew we were still married. And their marriages were failing, and saying, can you help me? Do you have some advice? And Mike just didn't really know what to say or what to do. So being the kind of guy he is, if he doesn't have the answers, he'll go to someone that maybe does. And so he asked me, as a longtime firefighter spouse, do you see something about us that might be kind of tough to live with? Because he said, I don't know what could possibly be wrong here. And I said, oh yeah, I've got lots of ideas.
Just a tip, be careful about the questions you ask.
So I said, well, jot them down on a little piece of notepaper, just assuming I'd have one or two little chicken scratches. And instead I handed him a typed 10-page annotated document. He went, wow, I had no idea. But the question started with his genuine desire to help. And I wrote it down, not to be critical or anything like that, but with a genuine desire to help as well. And Mike was impressed with the document. He sent it to Diane and Bobby, and they had the courage to put it in fire engineering. Pretty big response, led to my column, which has now led to this class. So that's how it all began, which is the question, is there something about us that's tough to live with?